It is time to monetize your big idea. Join us on the 29th to the 31st of August in Hollywood. Become a leader in your category. Change the rules of the game. Change your struggles into confidence, your abilities into possibilities, your challenges into opportunities. Change the things you don't like. All you need is within you. It is time to monetize your big idea. Connect with your ideal clients, attract media attention, share your passion, speak on stage, walk the red carpet on the 29th to the 31st of August in Hollywood. Be the masterpiece. Get your ticket today at www.SpeakonRadio.com. Be seen, be heard, be present.
And we are back, and we are present from London, Sarah Lister, from Ireland, Daniel Serpico, and myself from Los Angeles. We are having a great conversation about what it takes to be the masterpiece, what it takes to put your heart, your mind, your soul into every single step you take each day toward your dream and make that into your greatest reality. The only reality is your fantasy, and we live in that world where everything is possible and everything is a lot easier than it's been 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We don't really understand how easy it is now to really put yourself together and share your gift, your talent, your whatever makes you who you are, and share that, give that back to the world, because the gift you have is not something was given to you to hold it back. It was given to you so you could give it away and bring the light and happiness in other people's life, touch their lives and make them better. Danielle, over to you.
Hi, and welcome back. Okay, so we're talking about basically what it takes to go after your goals and your dreams and create the life that you desire. That when you're visualizing, you make it within your grasp. If it's outside your grasp, it physically, then it's too far away inside your mind, because everything is created twice, as we all know. It's created first in your mind and then in reality. So if you can't reach it in your mind in the physical world, and you won't be able to make it manifest itself. So imagine what you're thinking of, think about what it is, and make sure that it's within your grasp. But if it isn't within your grasp, bring it closer. If you notice that, for example, it's behind you or past, it might mean that you're thinking too much about a past event. Sometimes people discover that their goal is around a corner. That sounds strange, but they actually visualize it just out of reach or around a corner. They visualize it around an imaginary bend. Bring it forward. Take a walk up in your mind's eye and walk around that corner and have a look. See what's blocking it. Actually physically stand up and move into it. I guarantee that exercise will really, really help you. I did that and it hugely helped. And if you find that, for example, some of your dreams and aspirations tend to be behind you, or you tend to be looking back into the past a lot, you want to get rid of that. You want to move forward. It's all about the direction that you're looking in. So one of the exercises that I to do at home, and it's quite an emotional one actually, and I don't know if you've heard this one either, Marina, from me, I'm not sure, but one of the big turning points in my life was, you know see what I went through, some adversity that my restaurants, I had been in the restaurant business, and my restaurants closed down due to the end of the Celtic Tiger in Ireland, and maybe some hindsight, some bad mistakes, but we know now that they're all okay, and they led me to something even greater. But at the time I was feeling very down, and I tended to, and maybe some of the listeners might find this, and be honest with yourself, because sometimes we tend to blame other things in our lives for other events. Like I blamed the economy, I blamed my parents, I blamed my childhood for the way things had turned out in my life. And as long as you do that, you're always looking behind you and you're not able to look forward. So one exercise that I did was a very extremely powerful exercise and really helped me to let go of a lot of issues that I had with, particularly actually this was with my father. So what happened was, when I was a little girl, I came from a broken home. My mum is Irish, I was Italian. And my parents split up for the last time when I was 10. Now, we had been going back and forth and back and forth. My parents were very passionately in love, but they were both overly passionate, and they both had a lot of self-sabotaging issues going on. I spent to the age of 10 on a plane flying back and forth from Italy to Ireland every time that my parents split up. So I never had a sense of belonging. I never knew where I really belonged. I didn't have a sense of identity. I would make friends and I would lose them the week later because we'd be going back to Italy, vice versa. When I was 10, we split up for the last time. Or my parents split up for the last time, and I came back to Ireland. Now, I had always been Daddy's little girl. And when we came back, I was devastated once again at not being near my father. And he didn't contact me. And I wrote him letters. I tried to call him, and I got no word back. Now, I was a 10-year-old little girl. And I asked my mum, why isn't he contacting me? Why won't he ring me? Why won't he write me a letter? Why won't he send me a postcard, a Christmas card, a birthday? And she said she didn't. For many years, I believed that maybe she was sabotaging this, that maybe she had something to do with it, maybe that she had stopped him, that maybe, that she was hiding something from me. But anyway, as time went on, I gave up. I called him, I rang him, I wrote him letters, and he never replied. So, I remember 2 or 3 years ago, I was 12 or 13, I decided, right, that was it, that I hated my father and I would never make any attempt to contact him again. And I grew up believing that obviously he didn't love me and that I had to get on without him. Now, 18 years of age, decided, okay, I'm going to go over to Italy, see my family and see my father and confront him and ask him, why did he not contact me for all those years? Why did he let his daughter, a little 10-year-old girl, come back to Ireland and never made any attempt to speak to her? So I went over to, I got on a plane, went over to Rome, and I told my family, I was close to my aunts and uncles, and they came to the airport, and with them was my father. And it was a very strange experience because the previous time I had seen him when I was 10, and he seemed to me then because I was a little girl and he was a man. And when I came back when I was 18, I was grown up, and he looked smaller, he looked older. It was a very surreal experience. And anyway, we were polite and we said hello and went off eventually that he spent some time alone. And I asked him, eventually I plucked up the courage and I asked him, why, Dad? Obviously I was speaking in Italian, but I asked him, why, Dad? Why did you not contact me for all those years? And he told me, what he told me actually really heart. He told me that it was easier for him to believe that I was dead than to see me occasionally. That he couldn't cope with seeing me, a couple of times a year for a holiday or something like that. He wasn't able for that he was strong enough to for a holiday or to write me letters or, that kind of thing, to send me a Christmas card. It was easier for him to basically put me out of mind and pretend I didn't exist. So it was easier for him to believe that his daughter was dead than to actually make the effort to speak to me. So that broke my heart and I walked away. And it took me another 20 years nearly to come to terms with that. For a long time, I believed that if your dad can do that, that must mean that you're unlovable. That if your parent can say that to you and do that and put himself over you, mean that you must be such a loser, such a worthless person, such an unlovable creature, that if your dad would say that and do that, that must make you truly, the lowest of the low. So I spent the following 18 years hiding behind a mask, pretty much. I believe that every single one of us, I mean, when you look at a baby, they're so pure. They just laugh and they're so happy and they're just so full of love. If you imagine that we're all a diamond, you know, we all have this heart that's like this beautiful shining diamond, like a baby. We giggle and we gurgle, and if somebody smiles at us, the baby laughs hysterically and is happy, right? Then what happens is you grow up and suddenly everything around you, like, things start to change because you learn from your experiences. And unfortunately, there's experiences sometimes along the way. What happens is your diamond gets covered in, let's say it gets covered in muck. It gets wrapped up in all this muck. So your diamond stops shining because it's wrapped up in all this muck. And this muck is your everyday experience that hide your, because when you're born, you're actually only born with two fears. Did you know that? You're born with only two fears. You're born with the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. They're the only two fears that we're actually born with. Every other fear is created in our mind, learnt by us. We learn to be afraid of fire because we burn our hands. We learn to be afraid of people because they hurt us. We learn to be afraid of life because we get knocked down and we get setbacks. So that's what happened. And my diamond got covered in muck. And what gets covered over that, like, the muck hardens and it turns into a shell. And you get this hard cover, this hard shell, which becomes your personality. And a lot of the time we spend our lives showing only our personality, which is like a mask outside world, and not really the diamond that's within. So I spent 16 years functioning like a perfectly functioning normal adult. I went around, I ran 3 businesses, I was successful, you know, I had a good life. And to everybody that would see me and meet me, I seemed happy. But there's a huge, huge difference between confidence and self-belief. Big difference between confidence and self-belief. You can be confident in what you do, you can be confident in a task, but that does not mean that you have real self-belief. I was very confident at certain things. I was confident at running a business. I was very confident in my abilities and my skills in certain areas, but I still underneath it had no self-belief, because underneath that shell, underneath all that muck, was still my little diamond that wasn't getting out there. There was still that little girl that had the belief as a little girl to want to make the world a better. She wasn't getting out. And what happened was, when I hit my rock bottom, when all my restaurants closed down, and I hit basically what I, for me, was nearly like a rebuilding of my life, and like I was reborn early in a way, because I was suicidal at the time. And another gentleman I knew in business in my small town here in Ireland, actually committed suicide. And he had another, because all the businesses are closing. I mean, at the time, originally in my town, there was about 25 restaurants. It ended up being 4. And everything closed down. And this gentleman, he didn't have a restaurant, but he had another series of businesses. And he closed down. And he ended up tying an anchor around his leg and throwing himself off the pier in Wicklow. And I remember that, and it was heartbreaking. I didn't know this gentleman well. I knew him till he came into the restaurant, and I would go into his businesses. And I know that one of his daughters was about to get married. And I can only imagine, obviously, the absolute despair and heartbreak that they went through. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I can't believe, why did he kill himself? Because of his businesses. And it kind of suddenly gave me a slap in the face, because in a